Do you know what I like to do before I load the dishwasher, before my wife gets home? I like to look at some baseball cards. All right, guys, I got a one card mail day here, and I wanted to show you this set and a few nuances to go with it. I got my good friend and national roommate, Rick, from Vintage Oddball Cards with me here. Hey, everybody! And I'll be engaging him. But right now, I want to show you my one card that I got today, and that is a 1948 Baseball Greats Fred Clark. Now, this set's pretty cool. If you can't afford to buy like Playing Days Babe Ruths and Tris Speakers and Honus Wagners and Ty Cobbs and all the greats, this is a nice way to get vintage cards of them. I mean, they're from 1948, so it's not too far after some of these players' playing days. And there are some really nice ones in here. My favorite's probably the Babe Ruth. And there's another one where he's holding out a bunch of bats. There is a Lou Gehrig in this set. I don't have it. Eddie Plank. You know, many people can't afford his playing day cards. Tris Speaker. Rogers Hornsby. Jack Chesbro. He doesn't have very many cards. Here's Honus Wagner. Ty Cobb. Christy Mathewson. There's a great Connie Mack. And an Eddie Collins. And one thing that I wanted to point out to you is that they made reprints of these in 1977. There are other cards. Here's my Joe DiMaggio autograph from that set. Now you will notice, if you look at this checklist of the 77, that Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle both have cards in here. And of course, they are from the 77 set. They were not in the original set. The original set were retired players. Joe DiMaggio was still playing at that time, and Mickey Mantle wasn't even in the league at that time. So there's no way they would have been made in 1948, obviously. And how you can tell the difference on the back is the 77s have actually a darker back. And if you're new to this set, you'd think it was the other way around. But this is the Joe DiMaggio with a darker back. And you can see these have a lighter back. Some of them are very light. Now, it's funny, I have memories when I was a kid. These weren't, I don't know, for whatever reason, we didn't really respect these that much. They would sell for like 75 cents. And I had a bunch, and I don't know what happened to them. I think I had the Cobb and the Wagner are the only ones left from when I was a kid. Actually, I think just the Cobb. I think I got that Wagner after. But anyway, I had these, I remember having the Walter Johnson, and I don't have that one now. And I remember having the Babe Ruth, the one with the baseball bats. And I know I wasn't particularly fond of it. He had his big beer belly and his bats at the time. I appreciate these, I think, a lot more now than when I was a kid. But I always tell the story how we used to walk, a mile through the woods to a flea market every Sunday at our fire hall. And my neighbor would walk with me. He and I would do it. And I remember we went there. Man, for the time we were little kids, up until around the time I was probably 16, and got my driver's license. Because I have a recollection, because we'd always go there. And he had to go to church. And so when I got my driver's license, we would tell his parents we were going to church, and I was picking him up. I was taking him to church. And he had to come home with a bulletin. It was a Catholic church. He had to come home with the bulletin to prove that he went to church. And so I would pick him up at his house. He was my neighbor, and we would drive down to the church, and I'd pull in front of the church, and he would run in. and he would grab a bulletin, he'd run back in the car, and then we'd drive down to the flea market, and we'd go look at some baseball cards. So when we were little kids, I don't know, probably 12-ish, maybe even younger than that, he talked me in one time, because we went to this flea market all the time, and he talked me in to going and selling some stuff, setting up a table. And he had arranged everything, and he had paid for the table. I gave him half the money, and we were going to sell some cards. And I brought some cards. I remember I had cards like in a binder behind me, and I had just the cards out that I wanted to sell. And I'm thinking that it might have been these cards that I don't have any longer. I may have sold them there, but they were like selling for like 75 cents. Anyway, but behind me I had the binder and everything, and I remember this one guy came up and he's like, "What do you have back there?" And I showed him, and he's like, I'm like, "But these aren't for sale." And he's like, "Well, anything's for sale for the right price." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. These aren't for sale." Like, I was not parting with my good cards. But I have that memory. That was the only time we ever set up. We sold a few things, took every penny we made, and went out on the show floor, shut down early, and bought other cards we wanted. So that's what that's what we did. Those are fond memories, man. I miss going to that flea market. I especially miss the prices I paid. I distinctly remember paying $7 for my '65 Sandy Koufax, $15 for my '67 Mantle, $7 for my '59 Bill Mazeroski, which was a lot of money at the time. In any other city, that would have been a $3 card. But I sure do miss those prices. Now, I always bust Rick. I always bust his chops because he's always snaking cards on me. You know, when I started to get a little older, I started to lose my eyesight, and I always had 20/20 perfect vision. I always had perfect vision. I'm convinced, beyond just getting older, I'm convinced it's been staring at a computer screen and an Apple phone for so long. Because my eyes, when I would stare at it, would always be like I was looking into the sun, you know? And we're just on there for hours on end. And so anyway, I can't get used to needing glasses for anything, because I always had perfect vision. I don't like the way I look in glasses. I don't like needing glasses, so I just never wear them. And it's funny, at the National, I was with Dom, Stephen Sports Cards, and I'm like, "Could you add 20% to this bill and sign it? I can't read what the amount is." And so when I'm looking for cards, and this is not a good thing when you're a card collector, because I got really depressed about it, because looking at cards just isn't the same. I've been doing some videos on my how I store my cards, and I have those BCW boxes, and I write on them in pencil. And I was getting some old boxes, looking through some old sets that I did, like back in the early 2000s, and the writing's like this small. Like, I can't even see it now. But back then I had perfect vision, and my writing was like that small. So now my writing is getting bigger and bigger as we go. But anyway, I don't always see things when I'm at card shows. So I will overlook something great, and Rick will be beside me, and he'll snag it up. And I always busted his chops because he's always snaking cards right out from under me. But it's my own fault, I guess. But anyway, I wanted to show you the 1948 exhibit cards. They're great cards. What do you think, Rick? Hey, John, look over there. He snaked another one. All right, guys, thanks for watching. This is Rick, Vintage Oddball Cards. Bye.